Hey everyone, Howie Fisher with Fisher's Flies. Thanks for checking in. This is episode 3 of my 2025 Fulling Mill catalog series. This is Howard Croston's Tungsten Mini Egg in Cucumber. To get started in the vise, I'm using a Grub Boss hook from Fulling Mill in size 14. And this is paired with a offset tungsten drop bead in 3mm silver. The thread I'm using 70 denier fluorescent Chartreuse UTC, and I'm going to get started with my thread directly behind the bead. Take a couple wraps to make sure it's not going anywhere with my Resin scissors. And there's a couple different ways to secure these drop beads. The way I prefer to personally do it is I like to take some thread wraps to kind of jam the bead in place a little bit, but then also take X wraps or crossing wraps in front of and behind the bead, kind of like dumbbell eyes, to secure that in place. And then I hit it with some UV resin later. I'm using Easy Egg yarn in mini fluorescent cucumber from Fulling Mill. And this fly really is pretty simple, just like most egg patterns. I'm just gonna pluck a couple fibers off the end of this yarn, chenille, secure it in place. And then I'm going to take a couple wraps of this chenille. This mini stuff kind of has two sides, but you kind of got to really force it back. It's not as easy to work back as the regular size or as ecstasy because it is so small. But if you take a couple wraps and try and just work those fibers back, they'll go the right direction, and then you can brush it out later. I'm going to go ahead and take 4 wraps about, and then take a couple thread wraps over the material to lock it in place, going in front of and behind or over top of the yarn, and then snip the rest of this free. I'm going to go ahead and brush these fibers back a little bit and take a couple more thread wraps just to clean up that collar and secure that tag in place. And then I'm going to bring my thread in front of the bead and whip finish in front of the bead. Just a personal preference again here. And then I will snip that off. I'm going to take a brush, and I like to brush against the direction that I want the fibers to go. So they're facing backwards, so I'm going to brush them forward, and this seems to work really well when brushing out fibers like this. Last step, I'm going to take some Solarez fluorescent red resin and put a little dollop right on top of the bead. And this is part of the pattern, works as a hot spot. And I think ultimately you could probably argue that a fish might see this as a egg sac, especially on the more natural colors. But I'm going to cure this. Nice thing about the Solarez colored resins is they are opaque, so you can actually cure the entire amount, unlike some resins that are solid. Lastly, I'm going to hit these cross wraps that I use to keep the bead in place in some Solarez bone dry. Also going to hit that dot on top just to make sure it is completely tack free. And once that's all cured up, this fly is ready to fish. But there you have it, the Howard Croston Tungsten Mini Egg. Tie them up, fish them, let me know what you think. Thanks.